can't. Well, good morning, everybody. So it was really interesting that, the keynote was talking about change, and change is good. I sort of agree with it, but I also think that goal is a four-letter word. That goal setting is just really tough for folks. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Is why is goal setting so challenging, and what are some tools that you can use? Change is good and people matter. I like it. So yeah, if you want to speak and raise your hand, that's fine. I'm going to try to monitor the chat as we go through this. So let's see. I lost my mouse. There I am. There we go. Now, starting out, many of you from the peer training might remember these, but I think it's really important to remember these foundational beliefs about individuals. And really, these 5 foundational beliefs are just about being human, not about, having a diagnosis or a disability or an addiction, that they're just about being human. And first of all is that everyone has the ability to learn and grow. Everybody does. The second one is people's beliefs determine their behavior. People think their way through life, and whatever people focus on, they give power to, and life's experiences are the best teacher. Of those, what stands out to you? Anybody?
Jean?
Yeah.
If you don't believe that everyone has the ability to learn and grow, you're in the wrong business.
True.
Because do you remember Calvin, Jean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Calvin had this really, really bad stutter that kept him from talking. Kathy Bennett, who's on here too, Kathy Bennett and I said hi to him every day for 3 years with no response. One day, Kathy and I said, "Good morning, Calvin." And he said, "Good morning. How are you?" But if we didn't believe that he had the ability to learn and grow, we would have stopped saying hi to him after 2 years.
Yep.
Jean, do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And think about it in your own life. If you had people that didn't think you had the ability to learn and grow, and how did they interact with you? And the one I really like a lot, that I think speaks a lot to our goal setting, is that people's beliefs determine their behavior. I'm not sure if you remember, there's a quote from Henry Ford that says, "Whether you think you can or can't, you're probably right." And I know that's played a huge factor in my belief about myself over time. Jeannie, what you got?
I think all of them are important, because if you don't have one of these, you can't do what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or even think it's possible.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me get back over here. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to tell you a story. This is the gorilla story. It says, this story starts with a cage containing 5 gorillas and a bunch of bananas hanging above some stairs in the center of the cage. Before long, a gorilla goes to the stairs and starts to climb towards the bananas. As soon as he touches the stairs, all of the gorillas are sprayed with cold water. After a while, another gorilla makes an attempt and gets the same result. All the gorillas are sprayed with cold water. Every time a gorilla attempts to retrieve the bananas, the others are sprayed. Eventually, they quit trying and leave the bananas alone. One of the original gorillas is removed from the cage and replaced with a new one. The new gorilla sees the bananas and starts to climb the stairs. To his horror, all the other gorillas shove him off the stairs. After another attempt and another shove, he knows that if he tries to climb the stairs, he will be pushed off. Next, the second of the original 5 gorillas is replaced with a new one. The newcomer goes to the stairs and is shoved. The previous newcomer takes part in the punishment with enthusiasm. Next, the third original gorilla is replaced with a new one. The new one goes for the stairs and is struck down as well. 2 of the 4 gorillas that participated have no idea why they're not permitted to climb the stairs or why they are participating in the shoving of the newest gorilla. After the 4th and 5th original gorillas are replaced, all the gorillas that were sprayed with cold water are gone. Nonetheless, no gorilla will ever again approach the stairs. Why not? Because that's the way it's always been done. So what does this story have to do with goal setting and motivating peers? Anybody?
I think the motivator for us is basically, it's try again. I mean, there's that hope that we can remove obstacles and barriers for our consumers when they've lost hope that change isn't possible.
I mean, I think about how many of us in our lives had goals in our lives that for whatever reason we were shoved off the stairs. Whether, illness struck, whether we had people that didn't support us, whether, I mean, how many of us when we were growing up said, when I grow up, I want to have a disability, an addiction, a mental illness, how many, and how many of our hopes and dreams were kind of derailed by that? How many of us have reached for that banana? Kathy Bennett.
I think
sorry.
this really speaks to me about learned behavior as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it's loads of learned behavior. They had no idea as to why they were being pushed off the stairs, but they learned that we just learned behavior. Not going to reach for that because I learned not to.
Sorry, Walgreens and Adrian.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, well, thank you for calling back. Bye.
Hey, Rhonda, you're on. Can you mute?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's all right. I don't have the mute controls over here. I understand a lot of us are multitasking, of course. So what is a goal? So of course, every good training has the definition from the dictionary. So it says full definition of a goal: the terminal point of a race, the end towards which effort is directed, an area or object towards which players in various games attempt to advance a ball or puck, and usually through or into which must go to score points. So basically, a goal is that end point. That goal is the destination for which we seek. Now, sometimes we get a little confused between our goals and our objectives. So understanding that goals are the things that we want to be able to do or have in our life. They're significant in size, the end in which we hope to achieve, the results from our actions, and our longer term to complete. Objectives, on the other hand, are those actions we take towards our goals. They're usually medium or small in size. They're the means to the end, the steps we take to get there, and they're part of the whole and shorter in term. A lot of times we get distracted by our objectives, not recognizing that they're part of the goal. Anybody ever hear, how do you eat an elephant? Anybody know the answer? One bite at a time. So let's talk about goal setting is a powerful motivation for people. Goal setting activates individuals in ways that provide purpose, challenge, and meaning. Goals are the guideposts along the road that make a compelling vision of the future come alive. Goals energize people. So what do you think the purpose of goals are for you?
Well, to accomplish something that's important to me.
Perfect, perfect. Anybody else?
To have a measurable level of achievement.
Mhm. It is, I like that it says there, and that it's the guideposts. It lets me know I'm moving down the road. Mhm. So what should some basic values of goal setting? Goal setting should be based on what values?
The persons,
Go ahead.
the persons.
Yes, again, that ties into what Vicky said also about that it's about what's important to the person. But again, how many of us have had should goals placed in our lives? Other people told us what our goals should be. Jay, what were you going to add?
I just agreed with you.
Okay. Anybody else? What else are some important values that goal setting should be based on? Vincent.
How does it benefit?
I lost Vincent.
It should be some that I think somebody just said it, but I was just going to say it should be. I was going to say the same thing. It should be beneficial to the person.
Yeah. And not just beneficial to the person, but also what that person wants. And I think that's the challenging thing in goal setting. How many of you work doing goal setting with folks? And how often is it challenging to figure out what is important? Because so often we're in survivor mode. You know, I'm just trying to figure out how to get through the day, how you want me to set a goal. And I think one of the other challenges is, and somebody put in the chat that goal setting is about focusing on strengths. And focusing on strengths isn't about looking for them. It's about knowing they're there. Some things about believing a person's strengths include the absolute belief that what defines a person is their unique gifts, talents, and skills, and that every person has the potential to apply those in their life. I think it's really important for us to share that belief about others, because I think oftentimes the people we serve don't have that belief about themselves. The other one, next one is really important, is each person's reality is as they see it. You know, how many times have somebody said, oh, hey Jay, why don't you do this thing? And Jay's like, no, I don't think I could do that. That is your reality. So for me to say to Jay, oh, don't feel that way, you can do it, that's discounting his reality. The question to Jay would be, Jay, what would it take for you to be able to do it? Not why can't you? Because if you ask them why can't you, then they're practicing the why they can't. Focusing on strengths is to say, what would it take for you to be able to? The language we use creates our identity and our reality. It's very important. How many of you have used language that limited your possibilities? Sometimes I think a lot of the clinical language we're forced into kind of replicates that a bit. That it ends up we're focusing on our disabilities instead of our abilities. All individuals have the urge to succeed. Even in your most dysfunctional points in your life, you had the urge to succeed. You might not have thought you could, but you still had that urge. And so I hate it when I hear people say, oh, they don't want to succeed, you know, they don't want recovery, you know, or I hear peers say, well, I'm not going to be working their recovery harder than they are. We're not looking at what do they see as their barrier. People need to know that someone cares for them and will be there for them unconditionally. Now, unconditionally doesn't mean that they don't have their own life consequences. Unconditional support means it's not my job to punish you. Each person's need to change and grow are defined as they see that need. You know, I had lots of people in my life telling me I had to change, I had to change, I had to change. It didn't matter until I saw that need. And in fact, they're telling me to change probably made me a little more feisty and non-compliant about change. Strength building is a lifelong process, is that we always have that ability to do that. Let's see, I'm not sure if I'm on my next slide or not. We talk a lot about strength-based services and strength-based this, strength-based that, but we still bill for deficits. You know, I know of peer specialists that have been told that, you know, you can't make folks look too good in your case notes because then they won't be eligible for services. It really makes it a challenge in looking at strength-based services. I love this quote. People will live up to or down to your expectation. It's important to avoid the following obstacles to strength-based. First of all is fixing. Again, I think a lot of times as human beings, we care about someone so much. We know that their life could be better. We somehow think it's our job to fix them. First of all, people are not broken. And fixing something for a person only robs them of the opportunity to gain new skills and confidence. Any kind of lecturing or parenting, real or perceived, represents a power relationship. People need to be experts in their own life. Listen for their inner wisdom. Gene, what you got? Gene White.
Nothing wrong with this thing, and I didn't know how to get my hand up. I almost screwed up the whole thing. I am so savvy at that, but I put it in the chat. You know, some of the things that they say is don't set yourself up for failure, you know, and using things like that. There's, you know, it's a nice way of saying, I think you're too dumb to do it, you know, and so there's nice ways of hurting somebody's feelings, you know, and when it's wrong, it's wrong.
Yeah. And, you know, instead of don't set yourself up for failure, what about talking to you about what kind of supports can make that happen for you? And you know what? If you fail along the way, you're going to learn. Always. I'm working with I have a 8-year-old grandson who's struggling with the have to be perfect in everything he does, you know, and working with him on the listen, you either succeed or you learn. You know, Bob, why couldn't they, you know, help you with a safety net to take that risk instead of just assuming you're going to fail? Kathy Bennett.
Yeah, I just want to go back to the whole fixing thing. I truly honestly believe that there is not a person in this world that is broken. So it kind of goes back to Humpty Dumpty. Why couldn't Humpty Dumpty be fixed? It's because he wasn't broken. He fell. Falling doesn't mean you were broken. Falling means you fell. It doesn't mean breakage. So stop trying to fix.
Yep. People are not broken. I think another challenge to strength-based that we run into is judging. Understand that resistance and pushback are part of the process of change. They're a part of the process. But we end up making assumptions about somebody that's being resistant. Jeannie, what you got?
I was just gonna say people need to get to know the person before they judge them. Don't judge what you see by you're just looking at the person.
Mhm.
Get to know them first.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a little bit more about, people that are resistant to change have valid reasons. And until you get to know them and what their beliefs are about themselves, then you're just making an assumption about who they are. Next up under judging is determining that a person's behavior is wrong fails to acknowledge the fact that the individual has some unseen yet valuable reasons for their behavior. I would like to thank everybody in this room for their dysfunctional behavior in your life. Because you know what? It helped you survive to be here today. You get to decide whether it's still working for you or not, but it helped you survive. And then there are words that are strength robbing, and we've all used them. Strength robbing phrases include you should, you need to, you can't. And what was that one Bob just said? Are you setting yourself up for failure? And the most strength robbing phrase is, my advice to you is. It's not our job to provide that advice. It's our job to help that person think through their options. Focusing on strength does not mean ignoring challenges or spinning everything into a strong point. Strength-based means valuing the capacity, skills, wisdom, connections, and potential for each person. So let's discuss some strength building strategies. So first of all is that highlight people's abilities, both the ability the person has now and what abilities they want to have in the future. Everybody has abilities. Most of the time, we don't recognize our abilities. Most of the time, we don't go around bragging about our abilities, but really helping that person to recognize that they have abilities and highlighting those. Helping the person identify skills and talents. How many of you really feel like you have talents? Again, that's something somehow we've been taught to, not brag about skills and talents. Help the person recognize the skills they utilize every day just to get by. People often feel like they're going through the motions and do not see these things as strengths. Katie, what you got?
Sorry. So just something I wanted to know if you would touch on. Like I kind of hear what you're saying, and like the biggest Robbie said is like saying my advice is. So I get the idea that we don't want to tell people what to do or what we think, but at the same time, being part of my trauma as a kid was a lack of advice and a lack of guidance, and I really longed for somebody to tell me what to do. And I think it would help me pull my life together, even if I had unsolicited advice. So I have kind of a issue with sometimes we bring this up to like almost like a neutrality where like they have all their answers, they have this. So just wondering if you would speak on that kind of area and perhaps maybe with you even.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit, and I have some of that in the workbook that I'm going to share with you. Is that you bring a really, really valid point, is that, how many of you, if somebody comes to you and says, what's your goal for the next 5 years? I'm not sure where I'm going to be in the next 5 minutes. We don't take a lot of time to help people think through what their options are. We just assume, well, Katie, what you need is blah, 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 instead of helping you explore what options there are out there. You
My
know,
mom's common phrase was, "You'll figure it out. You got this." And it always drove me nuts because I was like, Mom, like, I really don't.
right. I don't even know where to start. And that's what the workbook is about that I'm going to share with you, is about how do you help people start? I mean, we do that so much with treatment plans, is that, you know, you sit down with your case manager. So what would you like your goal to be? That should not be the starting point. That should be, we spent a few weeks talking, looking at what are some options for you to explore over the next year. Of those, where would you like to go? Vicky.
Yeah, oftentimes too, I think that we always think that our goals have to be these big, huge, hairy goals. And so sometimes that might stymie us, right? So I think we can also look at, there might be some simple goals in our life that we want to achieve, and not just get stuck in that it has to be this huge, big goal.
Right. It has to be that, you know, I'm going to get my master's degree, you know. Jeannie, your hand's still up. Do you have something?
Little successes are the best part of it.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't have to be you walk a marathon or you run a marathon. No, you walk 5 feet.
I like in our training, we don't, in the peer specialist training, we do not use the word baby steps. That they are all simple acts of courage.
Yes.
I love that. I love that. If you've not been able to leave your house and you check the mail, that's not a baby step. That's an act of courage. You know, because it really talks about the effort it takes to really do that. You know, it's not a baby step. The next one on that list is link the person's strengths to the success of their goal. If the person sees they already have some of the skills they will need, it builds confidence. You know, and get a little bit like we were talking about, that I don't even know where to start. You already have some strengths towards this end goal. Demonstrate that learning is a part of the process. Ensure that opportunities for various types and styles of learning are available. If you didn't have something to learn, it wouldn't be a goal. Highlight those new skills. Illustrate how these new skills apply to the individual's stated wishes and values. It is important that the person sees results and progress from their own view. And it's not about you telling them you necessarily look what you did, but also helping them to see, look what I did. I like this next quote as well. Oops. There we go. The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear. The oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. And that's what we're talking about with goal setting. With goal setting is that you're asking someone to stand on the edge of the cliff and step off with a leap of faith. You know, so many of us have been, you know, damaged by our failures, you know, damaged by people who have told us we're broken, that it makes it very difficult to have that trust, to not fear that unknown. Change can be one of the most stressful things in life, even when the change is desired, even when it's good. Human nature naturally resists it. In fact, there's a saying in neuroscience that neurons that fire together wire together. This means that the more we do something, the more it becomes not only a habit, but biologically ingrained. It helps explain why change takes so much effort and why we naturally resist it. I love to challenge people to, if you think change is easy, when you brush your teeth the next time, brush with your non-dominant hand. It actually hurts your brain. Try it, trust me. So fear of change is a natural reaction, but what terms do we apply to people who resist change? What do we say about folks who resist change? What do we call them?
Stubborn.
Stubborn? Okay.
Who?
You might hear unmotivated.
Yep, unmotivated, lazy, non-compliant. What was that, Jay?
Non-compliant.
Yeah, non-compliant, that's a big one.
Complacent.
Complacent, yes.
Stubborn.
Stubborn, resistant to treatment. Yeah, when at the same time we recognize that resistance is normal. So let's talk about some of that resistance. Pressures that reinforce resistance. I want to stay where I am because. Even if I'm not entirely happy where I am, I still may not be particularly interested in moving forward and taking the risks required to change. People can have many different reasons, experiences, beliefs, behaviors, identity that influence their resistance to investing in making a change in their life. Here are some. I do not want to change because I'm afraid. It may be because I simply do not see it as a possibility for me. It may be because I don't think I have the ability, or it may be that I've lost so many things in my life I cannot risk trying again. I do not want to change because my needs are already met here. Needs are basic drivers of actions. If needs are not seen as being particularly threatened, and the current situation is relatively comfortable, particularly in comparison with the proposed change, then I will be happier to stay where I am. If people have resigned themselves to the life that they have, it will be very difficult to shake this. I do not want to change because I'm comfortable, even if I'm not happy. I may not be very interested in accepting the changes you are offering if I'm comfortable where I am now. People who have been in the same place for a long time are usually in this state. They do not feel a need to change and will view any suggestion of change with distaste or even as a threat. I do not want to change because I've worked hard to get where I am. Change challenges a person's identity. Most have been in much worse situations than the one they're in now, and change only feels like a threat to their relative safety and they feel in their current situation. I do not want to change because I'm in the middle of something really important. People are always involved in something in their life. This new goal may seem to intrude on their current routine. Change will involve time and energy that the person may feel they do not have to spare. Do not discount the power of the stability and predictability of their current situation. Every single one of you, your 24 hours is 100% booked. Even if you're laying around binge watching, Netflix 16 hours a day, it is still 100% booked. All of us are busy doing something. The next one, I do not want to change because I do not understand what purpose there is in making this change. It is a common problem for those who are promoting change to assume that it is easy to understand why the change is important. If people do not see any direct benefit in their life, they will be less likely to make the change. I think that's often a problem with those suggested changes, is that I didn't see how my life would be better, so why should I invest? Jeannie, you got something?
Yes. I was gonna say, a lot of people don't want to change because that's what they're used to.
Yeah. And again, as human beings, we are creatures of habit. We are. Our brains our brains take up most of the energy in our body, and they like to conserve that energy. The next one, the destination looks worse than where I am now. Although I may want to move, the final destination of the change looks significantly worse for me than the current position. If you want people to voluntarily make a change, then it must be to a place they see as better than what they have now. The change has nothing to do with me. If the change has nothing to do with me, if the benefits are all for other people, or if it's just because it's part of my treatment, then I will feel no pull to make changes and I will not buy into the change. A lot of that is challenges around those treatment goals, is that oftentimes they're goals to make other people more comfortable. The next one is, I do not want to change because I do not know which way to move. I may want to make changes in my life, but I do not know which way to go. Some changes sound wonderful, but when people are left unsure of what to do, they do nothing. Often people are expected to make changes and they are not provided with the supports or the chance to learn new skills needed to make the changes. That's exactly goes to that point made earlier about, oh, you'll figure it out. I have never been on this edge of the cliff before. How am I supposed to figure it out? I think I'll just stay still. The next one, I do not want to change because the journey looks painful. The final destination may be great, but the journey from here to there looks very uncomfortable. The anticipated pain of the change is more immediate than the distant and hazy future. And next of all, I do not want to make the change because I do not trust those who are asking me to change. If my experience of you as a representative of the system is that you have been untrustworthy in the past, then I'm not likely to buy into your vision of the future. If you are expecting me to go on what I perceived as a perilous journey, then I will not trust you and I will not join you. And then finally, I am not going to change because a couple of reasons. I cannot face taking the risk of trying something new. I have the power to obstruct that change. Often this can be a way for people who have felt powerless to have some sense of power. I'm not going to change because I will lose what I have. And I'm not going to change because I can't. Any of those, all of those are valid reasons that people have to not change. Anything that stood out to you, anything you would add to that list?
Over there.
Why do you say those are valid reasons? Those sound like excuses, even though we're trained to meet people where they're at. I don't think they're valid.
Oh, because understand, we talked about that people's beliefs determine their behavior.
Okay.
So, and people's beliefs are their reality.
True.
So if those comments are their reality, then to that person, they're valid. From the outside, you know, it may not seem that they're valid, but internally to that person, they're valid. Jean, what were you going to add? Oh.
Really? Okay, there you go. Okay. Jean, can you hear me or?
I can.
Okay, cool. You know, people, their reality is their reality. You kind of got to let them be where they're at. I mean, I was helping a guy in jail and I said, you know, your life's a little unmanageable, I see. And he said, no, I'm the trustee. And I said, well, you're in jail. He said, no, I'm the trustee. I can go have a cigarette whenever I want, and they'll give me all the coffee I can drink. And I go, are you, what, you're still in jail, right? You know, and, you know, but you had to meet him right there. That's where he's at. That's where he's at, you know.
Yep. Because that's his reality. Just trying to talk somebody out of their reality. You know, if I were to just to say to you, you know, the grass is blue. You know, no, Jay, the grass really is blue. You know, trying to talk somebody out of their reality is not going to be helpful. And even if, what was it you said it was, Kier? Even if that belief is invalid, trying to just talk them out of that is not going to be helpful. So going back to, like you started with, is that it is about meeting them where they're at. And that's why I really like that whole concept of, instead of asking the person why you can't, what would it take you to be able to? You know, I think it really helps change that perspective for that individual, to not just reinforce their why I can't. Our next slide is, oh wait, we did pressures. There we go. The motivation equation. If you have somebody that is not following through on their goal, I will tell you it's not their goal. Is that they are missing one of these. Really, for someone to be motivated toward a goal, they have to own it. It has to be something that is important to them. It has to be their decision, their choice, not something put in from the outside. And they have to see the benefit. They have to see how their life will be different. So it says, if the person has ownership of the goal, if they feel the goal is theirs, not something someone told them to do or something they should do. Why do we should on people? You know, I think about this, is that how do you react when someone tells you something that you should do? So, you know, we know shoulding doesn't work for us, right? The flip side of it, how many of us go out shoulding on others? We're really good at doing something we know really doesn't work. So really stressing to not should on people. I said should, I don't know what you heard, but I said should. The individual must be able to see the benefits from their own perspective. Anybody here get clean and sober, for example, because somebody told you how much better your life would be? No, it wasn't until you saw that your life would be better. A person will be willing to lay out the time, the effort, the money, or take the risk if they feel there is a benefit on the other side. It is vital to take the time to truly explore what things are important to that person. And you know, and I think that's one of the challenges with goal setting, especially in treatment planning, is that most often clinicians don't have time to do good goal setting. You know, on top of the complicated power relationship that a clinician is in. Again, a great role for a peer to be able to do. So with all those solid, tangible, real reasons we have to resist change, how do we overcome that resistance? What can a peer do? First of all, focusing on growth. Change often brings feelings of loss and deprivation. So focusing on growth and what new you wanting to add in your life will ignite excitement. Focusing on something new and not what you're going to, quote, be losing. Identify and transform beliefs. Identify what the beliefs are that the person has about their life and possibilities. Identify how some of these beliefs may be hindering growth, and assist the person in evaluating the validity of their beliefs. And it's kind of tough on that beliefs ones. I think that as peers, we're very good about, you know, hearing beyond the words. But think about in your own life, how many times when you're sitting down with someone, do you necessarily share your negative self-talk? You know, it's one of those secret things we keep inside. I think as peers, we can be really good at hearing that from others, even if they're not saying it, because we have felt that way before. acknowledge that change can be stressful. Don't just make it, rainbows and unicorns. Not acknowledge this, and preparing for it will go a long way to support and encourage the person to take the necessary risks. And again, throughout it all, focus on the benefits. We don't do things just because we should. We do them because other people, or we don't do them because other people think it would be good for us. We will only work for things that we find a benefit in doing. This is just a fact. Focusing on the benefit that that person sees in their own life and practicing that benefit. How will your life be different after this? And, building that awareness, because they've never had this in their life. So some of it's going to be imagine what it would be like. Imagine if you had your own apartment. What would it look like? What would you do? So helping that person see and practice that benefit, especially when it gets tough. Especially when it gets tough. Now, all right, I'm going to see. Anybody have any questions before we move forward? I'm going to try to share this document if I can figure out how. Anybody questions, comments?
I was just going to say, like, on more of a comment, when I've come across somebody with a goal and they've set up a goal, but then they're not working on it. And it's like, okay, you said this is what you want your goal to be. And they're like, yeah, well, then I'll start like talking is like, is this something you wanted to work on? Well, this is what everyone said I should. And I'm like, so is this something you really want to work on? And they'll say something like, well, I should. I said, for the truth, what is it that you want? Well, no, I really don't want to do this. And then they'll apologize and say, like, well, you wanted the truth. I says, thank you. Because then I says, by honestly saying the way you feel, that will help us work on something. And if this isn't the right direction, then we need to look at something different.
Yeah, because that's a lot of times true too, is that we should on ourselves. And lots of times working with folks is that, you're working with them and you're like, is that really you're what you want? And sometimes it can be, but sometimes, yeah, we should on ourselves. Anybody here ever, I should lose weight? Until you move past the should and the I want to lose weight so I can do blank, or whatever it is, I want to do X so that I can do blank, that's what's going to motivate. But I think, again, same kind of thing is that I think as human beings, back to that gorilla story, we don't necessarily know how to do goals even for ourselves.
Right, because we kind of want to please people too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Anybody else?
Jean, just a comment on the should-haves. You're right. We've all done the should-haves. You should have. I think we're probably not expressing ourselves in the best way, because I think sometimes the should-haves are about concern or care for an individual. And, but we just kind of take the wrong path to express that.
Absolutely. And again, that what this conversation is about is that, how can you initiate that motivation part? Even if you're trying to should on somebody, you still have to, before any progress is going to happen, you're going to have to initiate that person's motivation.
And you have to get them to trust you. And people with IDD especially, they have a hard time trusting other people because they've been looked at by people differently.
Right.
Like you're shoved into a corner or whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there. Been there, done that.
And probably, and I think it's true for you know, all of us, treated like, you know, our brains were broken, that we didn't have our own inner wisdom, that somebody needed to take care of us. Mm-hmm. And then going again, taking that back to that gorilla story, is that I know from so much time of people treating me like I couldn't make decisions for myself, and that they had to tell me what I should do. To a certain degree, I started not being able to make decisions for myself because I didn't know how, because nobody took me through that process.
You know, one thing when I was helping others and going to see the counselor with other people, and the counselor, the person just sitting there, and then the counselor would say, well, you want to go to the drop-in 3 times a week, right? And oh yeah, I do. Well, then you want to go to this group on Wednesday, right? Yeah, that's what, you know. And I mean, the only thing that got tired on that person was their neck from bobbing. They didn't, their lips never got nothing because they didn't say anything, you know. So
Right.
that's really tough.
Right. Absolutely. And then again, how the problem with that is that it kind of sours people additionally on making and setting more goals. I'm going to do a new share screen with you since I can't figure out how to share the document. Now, they said the documents will be available to download within a week or 2 after the training. All right, can you see my screen? What do you see? Do you see my goal setting workbook? I'm trying to make it fit.
Yes.
Yay. And so what this is, and again, talking about, I'll make it a little smaller. Go away. I was trying, I wanted to be able to, there we go. So my goal setting workbook, and I'll take you through what this looks like. Again, first of all, it talks about that. And this is a workbook that you can use for yourself. You can use with the people you serve. Starts out with that whole motivation equation. And then really there are 6 steps. Step 1 is what things are important in your life. What things would you like to strengthen? What are 3 things that are most important to you? Taking a look at each. Select the goal you want to work on and plan the steps you need to take and reach your goal. So the first week worksheet here, so I know you can't probably read this. Let's see. Says there, the worksheet contains a list of things that most people find important in some ways to their life. And if you look at some of the things on there, my living situation, I have people I trust, picking things randomly, I like and respect myself, I have a sense of belonging. So you can see for each of these, people can rate, is it important? Yes or no? And what is their level of importance? And again, so you aren't just going to the person, well, what would you like your goal to be? They can rate how important that is. So the step 2, looking at your answers above, place a check mark in the first column of the areas you would like to strengthen. I don't know if you can see my arrow, but they can check off which of these areas are important to me. Make a list of what are those top 3 areas you'd like to strengthen. And then step 4 is filling out a worksheet for each of the selected areas. So the first area in my life, reason why this is important to me. If this area was stronger, I could. The benefits would be, if I don't do this, what will my life look like if I don't do this? Some of the things I think I need to do to get started. I think I can do these things. I will face these challenges. I'll need help with these things. These things might get in the way. These people may not support me. These people will support me. This is an area I would like to work on because. So they have 3 worksheets. Certainly you can do more. We usually 3 is a lot to cover for a person. I mean, someone might come up with just one of those areas they want to work on. And then step 5 is looking at those 3 things. Choose which one is most important to you. And it may be for that person, it may be a combination of those things. So writing in there, my goal is, and then step 6 is the plan for achieving that goal. One of the things I need to learn is target date for this step. I need the following supports to really help the person think through what are the things they need to do and learn. Again, you can add pages at any time to really help people think through the steps and what do I need to do through each stage of that process. Any questions on what that 6-step thing looks like?
Hey, Jean, I love it. I love the worksheet. Is there a way you can send a PDF?
Yeah, well, 2 things. One is I was trying to put it in the chat here, but for some reason I cannot. I'm going to stop sharing again so I can have my screen back. I was trying to figure out a way to share it here, but I can't seem to do that. They will have all these documents. I will upload them for all of the workshops, plus recordings of all the workshops available within the next week or so. The recordings for these files are humongous, so it'll take them a little while to get those put together, but they will have all that stuff available. Every time I try to pull it up, it tells me I can't do it. It won't
Yeah,
find
because
the one.
worksheets are fantastic to use, you know, for me and also my consumers.
Yeah, and
it's in Microsoft Word,
mhm.
and I try to go to save or print, and I mean it doesn't do anything. That's in the actual, you know, it was, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. And again, this is something that you can do all at once with, probably not all at once with people, but you know, that you can do over time with a person. You can utilize with person to as a send home worksheet, you know, any of that kind of stuff. Kelly.
Yeah, I've been dealing with a hard goal that my boss put me on. How do I try to get better at it?
I missed the part. What is it your boss gave you to work on?
A goal that's
Oh,
stepping over my boundary goal.
First of all, my question to you is that is this something important to you? What of this goal is important to you?
It's to help me to move on and to learn a lot better.
So what do you want to learn from it?
Not to step over boundaries anymore.
Okay, okay. How will your life be better if you weren't stepping over boundaries?
It'd be a lot better.
Like what? What would be better about it?
Like not having contact with the retail interns over on Facebook, or
Is that what would be better about learning boundaries?
yeah.
Because here's the thing is that, you know, unless you see, you know, you said this was a goal from your boss.
Yes, I work at I'm a retail sales clerk for their stores, and I'm also a gallery clerk, and I'm going through my peer mentor internship. So my boss is going to have a talk to me about my one goal.
Okay, okay. So how would your life be better with better boundaries?
Just only asking questions to my boss instead of to other people.
Okay. Well, I think probably it would be, if you were asking the questions directly to your boss instead of other people, is that at least you know you'd go to the source.
Yeah.
Anything else? How would your life? Katie says in the chat, which I think can be helpful, is that how would you define boundaries? I think that because I think that's kind of tying back to what Kelly's talking about. Anybody, how would you define boundaries?
Boundaries are limits.
Limits? Why?
A boundary by definition is something that holds you back. It's the edge of something. Okay. So it's a limit, and that's the negative sense, but we can go beyond our limits.
Yeah, that's exactly the challenge with that. Kira, what you got to add?
Boundaries are is something put in place for your own well-being as well as maybe your employer, and it's just kind of like unwritten rules, things that you don't want to do because so that you can stay in your comfort zone and also make progress with individuals or even yourself.
Yeah, all those are great. Is that the boundaries are those places, the boundary to keep us safe.
Yeah.
You know, that's not to say, and sometimes they're very helpful in that, oh my God, I went to, years and years ago, I went to the Grand Canyon. And there was this place that you could go out and look down the canyon that had no fence. Scared the heck out of me. Is that there are times in our lives where we do need those boundaries. And there are also times in our lives where we put boundaries on ourselves that we don't need to. You know, I tell everybody the most amazing thing about me having a job as a peer specialist is I was fired from every job before this in my life. You know, because those were boundaries I put on myself. Kathy Bennett, what do you got?
Boundaries are rules that protect the people we serve and they protect ourselves. More for the people we serve though than ourselves.
Laura in the chat says that she's curious, Kelly, if your boss has explained what's important about those boundaries. You know, and having that whole conversation is that, you know, you can help you understand why it's important. It might help you figure out how to do it. Because again, I go back to the who was it in the group that said their mom told you, oh, you'll figure it out. No, asking questions about why is this important?
Healthcare, dearborn mission.
You know? Stephanie.
For me, it's like drawing a line in the sand as far as other people like disrespecting my boundaries. And of course, being careful about me respecting their boundaries, you know, and some of that's a learning process. I mean, because sometimes I find it difficult when someone does cross a boundary with me, how to address it, you know what I mean, or what to say so they respect it.
Yep, absolutely. Karen, what else you got?
I know we're talking about goals. So when I first started out as a peer, I wanted to be like a super peer, and I was all over the place with my individuals. I couldn't wait to help people. And my supervisor had to sit me down and say, Kiera, you're going to burn out if you don't set healthy boundaries. You cannot save the world, love your ambition, but there are already goals set in place. And you need to kind of stay on task. Not that we don't appreciate you wanting to help the individual, but you know, focus on what their goals are in the system. So I know as a peer, sometimes we can kind of get cut off track. Oh, you need to go grocery shopping, I'll take you. You got to go to the doctor's, I'll take you. But you can't, you really have to set healthy boundaries and remember that the goal for us as peers is to help them gain that independence on their road to recovery, not enable them, which you can do just because you have good intentions. So just always being mindful of healthy boundaries and what their goals are and the steps that they need to take to get to reach those goals. Just being mindful of what your job is and what your job isn't.
Yeah, one of the things I really like to stress to all peers is that be careful and don't let peer specialisting become your new addiction. You know, I think a lot of times that we can fall into that trap.
Because we care, but
yeah,
that's why we have to have those healthy boundaries.
Mhm. Yep. Stephanie.
Oh, I'm sorry. You already. you can
Okay, I
take
didn't know
mine.
if you had something
Yeah.
else. I can't put people's hands down. Katie says, explain that. What am I? Oh, explain what I said about our new addiction. Is that what you're talking about? Yep. Yeah, that we become, again, because, you know, and I struggle with it myself, is that, you know, I had never had a job that had so much significance. I never had a job that gave me the meaning and purpose that being a peer has, you know, and that kind of that meaning and purpose became, you know, this new high. You know, and I wanted so badly to help people that I was not taking care of myself. So it's hugely important to remember about taking care of ourselves. We cannot save the world. And in fact, that's not our job to save the world. Patty.
What is your email, Jean?
I'm sorry?
Your email.
Oh, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
There you go. Don't laugh. People can only use words against you if you let them. I have decided that Gene the pig stands for possibilities inspire growth. Anybody else, any thoughts and comments on goal setting, and how's it been for you? How's it worked for you?
And just make sure that the goals are for you, not made for you, I guess. Make sure they're for you, not with you.
Explain that more.
I mean, if somebody makes me a goal and I don't want it and they want it in my plan, no.
Well, it kind of ties into C. Winters says, Winters in the chat says, what about losing motivation along the way?
Yes.
Again, going back to helping the person see and remember the benefit. If you are working with someone on a goal, don't just write down their goal, write down their why. Why do they want that? Why is it important to them? Because it's that why that's going to motivate them. You know, I didn't years ago, I didn't save money because I wanted to save money. I saved up my money because I wanted to buy a car. And, you know, when I was standing there deciding, do I want to go to McDonald's? I really want to go to McDonald's, but I really want that car. You know, is that keeping in mind is that benefit is what's going to keep motivating that person. Anybody else? What you got? Commentary?
Just make sure you have the best interest of your client at heart.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing of it is remember when it was challenging for you too. You know, again, that's one of the things that we do well as peers is that remember when. You know, most of the things I've been able to, I feel like most of the things I've been able to achieve in my own life have been primarily dumb luck. You know, because goals still scare the heck out of me. So thank you guys very much. Been a great group. I appreciate it immensely. I look forward to seeing everybody live and in person soon. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a great rest of the conference. We're almost through. Again, it's gone much better than I was afraid it was going to, even on Zoom. But it's been kind of nice to be able to do the workshop in shorts. Because I don't know where you guys are from, but it's still pretty warm here in Michigan. In Lansing, we had some storms overnight. Who's anybody out in the thumb? I heard they got some terrible storms out there. Sandy?
I'm out in the thumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, we were okay at our house considering we have a lot of trees.
Mhm.
And we didn't lose power, but we're on a different power grid. But yeah, there were quite a bit of downed trees and stuff like that with the winds.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard Vassar took some damage, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was out driving. I was on the expressway when it was coming through, which was not necessarily a good thing because I could see it all coming.
Right.
So thank you guys so much. I miss hanging out and chatting and BSing with everybody. You know, soon, 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 soon. So thank you all. See ya.
Thank you, Jane.